previous episode, we talked about how Lokai art replicates nature's beauty and how it is used for utilitarian purposes, and the relevance to game and play in the olden time. In this episode, we will tackle how Lokai art has been used for artistic expression of self-esteem, self-glorification, and pride, how it has become a practice in religious ceremonies and rituals, and we will know a lot more about puso, or also known as the rice pouches or hanging rice. Self-esteem, self-glorification, and pride. Lokai has been used in weaving by early Sugboanons to form body-like parts. Symbolizing any part of the human body is often practiced by them to worship their idols called Anitos and other forces of nature controlled by the divine spirit Bathala for granting them a plentiful harvest and good health. Aside from that, Lokai art has been practiced for self-glorification purposes. The weave designs depict human body parts that symbolize something important to their lives. There is nginipon or teeth-like weave. For them, human teeth symbolize longevity with pleasure and satisfaction. This design inspires one to have a longer lifespan with contentment. Tamo soso or nipple-like pouch. For them, a woman's breast is a symbol of love and unity between a mother and her child. It represents motherly compassion, comfort, and care. Tamo utin or penis-like pouch. For them, a man's penis is a symbol of a life force, great ideas, power, and making money at work. The design is also associated with the religious creator. Pisang, bungi and Cebuano or cleft palate weave. The cleft palate is not a body part, but a condition wherein there is a congenital split in the roof of the mouth. This weave design symbolizes dismay and a lack of self-esteem. Iris. Iris is taken from the word iris, which means side of the body in English. It also means palihim or done secretly. This design reminds us of our bodily secret that only we and our God know about. Lastly, the most common design among Cebuano weavers is the kinasing or heart-like shaped pouch. For them, the human heart symbolizes sincerity and love, which is one of the foundations of peace in the family, community, nation, and world. The various designs which depict the human body parts have become a symbol of self-glorification, self-concept, and pride of Cebuanos. In this practice, a living testimony of the connection between man and nature can be seen, religiosity and rituals. Lokai art has been used in religious ceremonies. During the Lenten season, specifically on Palm Sunday, Linggo ng Palaspas or Bendita sa Lokai, or a Sunday before the Holy Week. All Catholic devotees attend the Mass and bring palms crafted like crosses and other designs to be blessed during the Mass. After that, they're not thrown away. Instead, they are burned and the ashes are kept for use during the observance of Ash Wednesday in the next calendar year. This practice is performed to celebrate Christ's entry into the Holy Land of Jerusalem, but for some, palm crosses symbolize peace and victory. Moreover, it is mentioned earlier that Lokai art, specifically puso or rice pouches, has been used by farmers in their rituals. At this point, we will talk more about how Cebuanos used puso in different ritual practices. There are several farm rituals, or butangan, associated with the use of several designs of puso. Harang sa mga kalag, ancestor worship offering. Buhat silong, ritual for good fortune and thanksgiving for abundant harvest. Tigpo, for farmers' atonement of sins of the spirits of the underworld. Sagangsang, for tuba gatherers' ritual for abundant wine. Damit, in preparation for abundant harvest. Balangkisaw, rituals for the atonement and sealing the spirits of the water gods. And bugus or pamisa for the souls in purgatory. The teachings of the Catholic Church despise all these ritual practices. But for the animistic upland farmers, these cultures have a connection to an unexplainable mystical experience. Majority of them in the past had shown adherence and loyalty without any doubt. They feared that the spirits would bring danger to the whole community if they would stop. In these scenarios, it is very evident that Lokai art designs have become a fragment of the Filipino cultural lifestyle. Ethnography of puso making in Cebu. The origin of puso.
Ako si Beria, 61 sa akong edad. So, sa 30 ka tuig mamot, puso.
Ako si Lea Kalisik, 38. So, ang edad Patuig na kung hinuay ang puso.
Mercy, tulipan.
Unsa ka importante sa imuha ang pagkat-on sa pagbuhat aning puso la?
Kay kuan, ay palit og mga konsumo sa balay, bugas, ingon ana.
Para na ako importante kaya ang paghimu puso labi na dati okasyon sa tua. Ang kanang kung magpuso ka, kanang hitsura kag hatag, nyawa pag kay hasod.
Importante din tayo na mo dahil hindi ba kung nakatabang sa mo.
Diin masad ka nakatunan ning pagbuhat og puso.
Adto sa akong mga ginikanan kay mao man ay namatan ako kahayag.
Nakapatuan kong himu ang puso. Ituluan ko sa akong sa pagkakamay.
Dinya nila sa akong ugangan. Sa imong unsa? Ugangan. Ugangan. Mo kay dili man jud ko ta kay sa inahan sa akong bana ba.
Aba kay nahibaw-an nga storya kung diin gikan o kinsa ang nagsugod aning pagbuhat og puso.
Wala ra ba ko kahibalo ana kay diara sa akong mga ginikanan ko nakakuan. Nakasunod.
Wala na nakakabalik.
Pero ang sinugdanan jud ani dahil kanang ginikanan sa ginikanan sa kumbana.
Sa inyong negosyo.
Oh, sa among negosyo. Mo ginay namatan nila nga negosyo niya. Unta nga nakamisad. Sa mga
Ganahan basad ka makahibaw sa istorya ani nay.
oo.
Oo, ganahan.
On a certain point, the obscure origin of Puso brings out the curiosity of those people interested in this art that predominates in the province of Cebu and its surrounding islands. It was evident that the locals in the Visayas had used Puso in their so-called ofrenda, an offering to the anitos, or idols in the form of pagdiwata or ritual, based on the descriptions of the Spaniards' fathers Alcina and the son Benventura in the 16th century. If Otay Bear's migration theory was true, Cebu, being at the center of the Visayas, had contacts with different international traders such as the Chinese and the Malays since the beginning of the 13th century. With the massive arrivals of the Chinese businessmen in the country, especially during the emergent phase of cultural development of the country, or in circa 1st to the 14th century CE, there were two circumstances considered that brought limelight to the origin of Puso. First, it was believed that Cebuanos imitated their machang, or a rice dumpling, and was wrongly cooked and became Puso. Second, Cebuanos showed to them our Puso as a native way of cooking rice dumplings as a sign of our own hospitality to treat visitors. The second professed origin of the Puso makes it an indigenous art of the Bisaya people. There was a legend made by Jeffrey James Y. Pacres in 2006 of Ontario, Canada, that tells how the Cebuano offered the Chinese traders its native rice dumpling that was an imitation of machang. But the Chinese did not agree with what the Cebuano cooked out of the palm leaves and said, for sure, which means it isn't, while pointing out on the Puso and saying machang while pointing on the rice dumpling. That was when the Cebuano realized that what he made is named Puso, in which the Cebuano did not get the pronunciation well. If this legend is true, then Puso, braiding and cooking may have existed among the Cebuanos prior to the arrival of the Chinese traders as indigenous Bisaya art form. Hence, the incorrect machang or rice dumpling was the start of Puso cooking from then on. Puso design principles. Like any other form of art, Lucay art observes the following principles of art designs such as balance, rhythm, emphasis, harmony, variety, movement, proportion, and unity. Puso is characterized mostly by formal balance because there is a balance between equal weights at equal distances from the center. This type of formal balance is called bisymmetric balance. In terms of freedom, it is obviously utilized in the actual interlacing and looping process of the Puso through parallelism. the rhythm of vertical and horizontal strips that interlock from a right over left direction. For harmony, it can be determined through the regularity of the size and length of the palm strips that create a certain form of impression in the entire interlacing process and its tightening to produce very symmetrical rice pouches in various shapes. As for the variety, it can be viewed in the interlacing process of geometrical lines and points of the rice pouch puso weaving. The designs of the rice pouches are projected to the actual actions of the real objects and animals found in nature. For instance, the binaki, with its frog-like shape, is woven like the real frog that touches the ground. Hence, for the movement aspect, it is considered as the element that makes the viewer's imagination catapult to immersion in reality. Rice pouches, like other forms of art, also have proportion. In puso weaving, weight, height, degree, and size can be ascertained by the use of proportion. The number of strips would make the entire size of puso proportionate. In puso weaving, unity is applied when the weaver knows how to find the perfection in the entire parts of the weaving process. The 6 designs of puso and the braiding intricacies. The rice pouches and various designs are a form of art as well as a ritual in and of themselves. In Cebu, there are many elaborate designs of puso depicted in various dimensions depending on the purpose. These are the binosa, kinasing, badbaranay, binaki, tinigib, which have different intricate braiding and interlacing processes that require maximum concentration to learn. Basic procedure in puso making. The following are the basic steps in rice pouch braiding. First, removing the midrib of each coconut frond with the use of the nail of the right thumb finger or with the use of a viola to ensure its sanitary value. Second, slashing desired strips to create whatever sizes of puso the weaver likes to make according to its purpose, like offering, eating, or selling. The third one, braiding the desired designs of puso using interlacing and looping figures in each of the desired designs. And the last one, the fourth one, tightening the puso. This is to ensure its stable shape and to keep the rice grains intact inside its surface. Puso in Visayan vocabularios. In modern-day Cebu, the term puso has been conveniently translated as hanging rice in tourist brochures, as these are typically tied in a bunch and hung on store beams and posts. The shape, intricacy, and utility of puso continue to fascinate local and foreign tourists alike. The early Spanish missionaries on the islands of Cebu, Panay, Samar, and Leyte may have noticed the puso with the same fascination. They included the term in their lexicographic journals and further defined it by citing several examples. The first one was Father Mateo Sanchez, S.J., who wrote the Vocabulario de la Lengua Bisaya. Sanchez noted that women usually made the puso a practice that persists to the present. Further, Sanchez not only defined puso, but more importantly mentioned several examples, enumerating at least 14 shapes known in the region. Short of describing each one of them, he listed the names of the different kinds of puso that came to his attention. Next was Father Alonso de Mentrida, OSA, who made the Diccionario de la Lengua Bisaya Hiliguina y Haraya de la Isla de Panay. Like Sanchez, he defined it by example and listed the various shapes of the puso he found in the island of Panay. In this vocabulario, Mentrida enumerated at least 6 kinds of puso. The names are as interesting as they are intriguing. Their names denoted intricacy in form. However, without extant samples, it is difficult to imagine how the puso shapes might have looked exactly. Father Francisco Ignacio Alsina, S.J., produced the Historia de las Islas y Indios de Visayas in 1668. He noted that in the Pagabo or Saragunting rituals for the Diwata of the Art Place, 2 kinds of puso were offered. One was the linangang, which Alsina described as a kind of juguete or plaything, fashioned into the shape of a pajaro bird, which they made of the widest possible palm leaves. The other was called ginawig, which was woven into the shape of a large hen. Next was Fray Juan Jose Delgado, S.J., who wrote the book Historia General Sacropofana, Política y Natural de las Islas del Poniente llamadas Filipinas. He noted the puso and recalled that he was used to taking of me whenever I go to the mountains in order to cut some wood, and I eat them with much appetite, served in the same palm leaves as tablecloths and plates. According to him, they were not only convenient to carry anywhere, but also kept the rice fresh for a longer time. Moreover, he noted the various shapes that the Niños Visayas or the Visayan children would make, and that these are muchos géneros de lazos, or different kinds of knots. Later vocabularios, like the one of Father Juan Felix de la Encarnacion, no longer provided an elaborate definition and no longer enumerated the varias esquinas or shapes of the puso, describing it rather perfunctorily. Interestingly, he made a separate word entry for pinaukan as a kind of leaf pouch for cooking rice, and pinapagan as rice wrapped in leaves flavored with salt and ginger. And the last one was Father Antonio Sanchez de la Rosa OFM, who was a preacher and the author of Diccionario Español Bisaya para las Provincias de Samar y Leyte, which was later edited and revised by Father Antonio Valeriano Alcazar OFM. Sanchez de la Rosa noted that puso is a heart-shaped bag made of coconut leaves to cook with rice or coconut with rice. Interestingly, he has a separate entry for langbay, which he also defined similarly as that of lambay. Really interesting, right? From Lucay art symbolism and its role in our ancestors' religion or rituals, it cannot be denied how significant are the leaves of a palm tree in our history, tradition, and culture. A specific example of this art, and a very famous one up until the present times, puso, also tells us its reaching story from its origin down to its cooking and braiding procedures, which makes us want to seek for more information. Because who wouldn't get engrossed with the hidden history of the Lucay arts in our country, right? We bet everyone who's watching this would become one. Anyway, that's it for episode 3, Beautiful People. We hope you enjoyed this one. Please look forward to our last episode of this educational vlog. See ya!